Lamb Chop Racing out on Zwift. We have some amazing all category racing coming at you today. We're going to be having this series all the way through the 19th of December. So 6 races of Lamb Chop Racing. This is similar to what you saw for the Southern Hemisphere recently with me and Pat Shaw covering. I'm Nathan Garrett, going to be your host for all of the Lamb Chop series. November 14th all the way through December 19th is what's going to be running. We're going to have women's only categories as well as mixed categories. Women were going to be going off first, and they have jumped out onto the course. Now, if you're unfamiliar, though, with Chop Racing, you're going to see a little bit of a different kind of race here out on Zwift. It's really all about a community focus. It's about each one of the categories being able to win in a race. A category racers, D category racers, B or C category racers, racers of all different abilities from all over the community, able to jump into this race, work together, and try and take the win at the end of the race. Handicap racing is just what it sounds like. The D category, the slower category, the riders that are not quite as fast, they go off first. They get a little bit of a time gap and then are chased by each of the other categories that are given a time gap based on what their riding ability is, what their power and speed ability is. It is based on their watts per kilogram FTP, how much power they can produce for about 1 hour is estimated in the game, and then they are put into that category. You jump into that category based on that watts per kilogram FTP, functional threshold power. So today, Lamb Chop Racing has kicked off actually already. We are out on course, it looks like, with the D category actually for the women's race. The women's race D category has about 11 riders jumping into it. They do get a 5-minute head start, I think, out here today. Now, the name of the game for this racing is going to be all about working together, that's for sure. With a little bit smaller categories out there with the women's racing, it's going to be all about a serious team time trial, that's for sure. You should be seeing a lot of messaging coming through in the game, as you do see Annabelle Cox here from BRT Hellcats, encouraging people on, telling them, hey, here's what we need to do in order to make things happen here in order to try and stay together. It does look like the C category is sitting in the pens here currently waiting to take off as well here, but we do have M. Marcella as well as Spielman here and Roman here, about 3 seconds up here from the rest of the riders right now. So we're going to be having live time gaps as well, but it does look like first place here just walking away from the get-go. Now, the D category here, the watts per kilogram that you need to have in order for your functional threshold power, you do see those on the right-hand side of the screen here on Zwift. 2.4 currently that you do see coming from S. Roman here. So to give you an idea of what Lamb Chop Racing is all about, or Chop Racing is all about, that watts per kilogram right there on the right-hand side is giving you what they are putting out for how much wattage is in the upper left-hand corner. 159, 165, as you can see. As that number changes, the watts per kilogram then changes on the right-hand side as well. Those watts are driving the weight of that avatar, the weight of the rider forward in the game at the speed that they are currently competing at or completing. So that is where the categories match up then, is based on that. So about 2.5 watts per kilogram or less is going to be what the D category is usually able to compete at for their functional threshold power. For the C category, it's going to be 2.5 watts per kilogram to 3.2 watts per kilogram. So as the C category does take off, we do see N. Williams at the bottom of the screen there right now, beginning to get going with their race. We're going to go ahead and see if we can bring up some of the live time gaps here in just a moment. And it does look like we do have them here starting to populate. As we do see, it is going to be M. East here from the BRT pack. Hanging out in the D category here at 2.1 watts per kilogram currently. In the C category then, you do see that time cap there now at 2:31. Now, you will not see the live gaps for the rest of the categories until they jump out on course. They have not started their race just yet, so it's going to be a little while before. Now, as you see the B's jump out on course, there we go. 4:50 is the gap between them now as well. So as the D's compete here to try and work together, you see them strung out here a little bit here. Roman still leading things out, 1.9 watts per kilogram. Spielman there toward the front as well, sitting in second place amongst them. They're going to be working real hard together to hold off that C category as they try and bring that. It looks like a 3-minute gap is what they were given to try and close down, to try and take the win across the line. Now, it's going to be a 26-kilometer race out here. as we are watching. Let's see if we can get a different perspective here on these racers and get a little bit of how much they have completed so far. 3.2 kilometers in to the race here at this point, 5:56 completed for this D category so far. So with a 26 kilometers out on the volcano counterclockwise circuit, is what they're going to be competing on for this race, for the women's only race today. 5 laps total for the counterclockwise is what it's going to be. So back in, though, with the time gaps here at 2:30, as we did say, a 3-minute gap that was given to the C's. It does look like it is then a 5-minute gap back to the B category. And usually for the A's, it is a 10-minute gap. So we'll see how that ends up playing out between the categories in the women's only race. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. And if it's a little bit different between these a little bit smaller participation races versus the larger, the ones that with a little bit larger participation out there for the mixed race that is going to be coming up in just the next 30 minutes or so. That race will be starting in, I believe it is, about 43 minutes from now. So if you do want to jump in there, you still do have time. Get your bidons ready, get some water going, and make sure you check what category you should be in for the race for the chop out there. So it does look like for the A category in the women's only race, they did get a 7-minute gap. Excuse me on the mistake there. They are 0.2 kilometers into the race right now for that A category, as you can see in the live time gaps there at 0.2 kilometers in. Pretty cool new stats that we do have on these time gaps here, with giving us the kilometers completed as well as the time between the categories at this point for each one of those categories. Does look like this D category is staying pretty organized. Roman and Spielman, though, are getting a little bit of a breakaway here, it looks like, from the rest of them. Now, each time they do come around on the course here for this 2-tier, as a lot of times we have called it, into the volcano, it is going to be a difficult time for the riders to stick together, actually. And we are starting to see things separate a little bit here between them in this D category. We'll see if we can jump in with the other categories, the B, the C, and the A's, as they are leading things out here as well. It does look like we do have T. Jordan, I believe, toward the bottom of the screen there, leading things out for that C category at this point. I'm going to go ahead and see if we can find where they are at out on course here currently. It does look like it is a solid contingent, actually, of riders amongst this women's only race for that C category currently. It does look like it is 26 that have jumped in total. And here we do have, it does look like Santi Amantini coming out of Spain, actually, hammering away right now toward the front end of this pack. It does look like they're working really well together. Revo team is out there, as well as the TBR team, CLS. If you're unfamiliar with Zwift Racing, a lot of you may be seeing Zwift Racing and riding for the first time. Zwift is a massive multiplayer online game in which you are actually riding a real bike and producing real power in order to push those avatars forward at the speeds that they are completing. At the top, you can see the speed, 44 kilometers per hour, 4.1 kilometers in so far for this C category right now. That's a real heart rate you are seeing in the upper right-hand corner, as well as real RPMs. And those gradients they are feeling if they are on a smart trainer, actually. So hammered away right now in this C category. Santi Amantini leading things out still at 6:33 in. So the right-hand side of the screen is going to be showing you what the current watts per kilogram, as well as the country flag, the rider name. You also have seen some of these names having a team next to their names there in an acronym. A lot of the acronyms that you are seeing in brackets are going to be the team name that they are representing for the Zwift team that they are riding for. So the Revo that you are seeing there, as well as the CLS and a few of the others, are all teams that are hammering away out on Zwift in the Zwift racing scene. Again, if you're not familiar with Chop Racing, this is a newer format to the Zwift racing scene. We've been doing lots of scratch races, points races, and other kinds of races. Recently, with it being so popular in the southern hemisphere, we had a series go on with the Lamb Chop and the Black Sheep Cycling apparel brand sponsoring it out of Brisbane, Australia. And it went so well. We had such a huge response from it that the Zwift decided to launch it now for both the North American and European race time. So there will be a North American race series as well For those of you who are wondering, hey, what about us that maybe want to do this around dinner time over here in the Americas? 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time and 7:45 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, the women's race followed up by the open to everyone mixed race. Those will not be broadcast in North American races. If you're looking for the broadcasts, they will be on the EU race times starting 7 p.m. GMT and 7:45 p.m. GMT, the open to everyone for that second race. So make sure you put those on the calendar if you're wondering what's going on here and you want to jump into some racing that is all about everybody having the opportunity to take the win out there on Zwift. Let's go ahead and jump back in with the live time gaps as we're still watching along with the D category here. And it does look like at 6.2 kilometers currently right now in for the D category. C at 1:27 back from them is the time gap. So it does look at the C category. It's closing things down very well at this point with that Spanish rider, Santi Amatini, really putting down some effort here as we take a quick look back and forth between these two. This is the current chase right now. 119 back only is what is the C category is at a 3-3 here, pulling through at the front. Now, if you're doing things correctly in a team time trial, the reality is that you are going over your threshold each time you are at the front end of the race and then sitting in, because there is drafting in the game, because these riders' avatars can get some reprieve from the efforts they're putting out to go at the same speed. They are able to sit in and get a little bit of draft actually and rest up a little bit and then pull at the front. So since these riders in the C category are most likely putting on about 3.2 watts per kilogram or 2.5 to 3.2 watts per kilogram for their functional threshold power, that is the power that kind of categorizes them, says what strength of rider that they are. So at that 2.5 to 3.2 for C category for what they can do for 1 hour, they're going to most likely, when they do go to the front, they're going to go into super threshold or what they can handle for maybe 3 to 5 minutes tops. And they're going to be looking to repeat that effort at the front over and over again, because the idea here is to move this pack of C category riders as fast as it could possibly go. And so pushing to the front there, going over your threshold of what you could hold for an hour, and then coming and sitting in and getting a little bit of reprieve and then continue to push that speed at the front so everybody else can get as fast as they possibly can. That's what chop racing is all about. Getting your category to the line first, and then the gloves come off. And that's kind of why it's called the chop. Because, and I learned this actually from commentator Pat Shaw, actually, coming out of Australia, as it's a very popular race format in the lands down under. And the reality of why it's called the chop is because once the chase is made and you get to that last lap and you know who's going to most likely be winning as far as the categories go, then it's like the gloves come off. It's time to make the chop. And so at that point, everyone you just worked with becomes the enemy, becomes the one that you're looking to beat. So it's kind of like, when does that take place? When do we say the gloves are coming off? And when do we know it's time to start racing each other? Because right now, this D category is working with each other, making things happen at that 117. They can see that the gap is coming down here. They can see that at 107 back, they've got to work hard in order to hold these racers off for another 22 kilometers, another couple of laps to go out here, out on Zwift. So great to see the women here showing up in force for both the D, the C, the A, and the B categories. We'll see if we can jump in with the B category as well. We did say there were 26 riders that jumped into the women's only race for the C category. In the B category, we are going to go ahead and jump in with them momentarily here. And I do see that it is going to be the BRT Hellcats here. I believe that's going to be Cox actually hammering away, coming out of Australia here. And they look to be closing things down pretty quickly to that C category, actually, as there are just a few C category riders here not too far ahead these riders right now. There's a 13-second gap actually between this B category we're currently looking at and the C category that has fallen off actually. So there's about 4 riders that have fallen off the main pace. It's going to be S. Aldred as well as Westergaard and Friedman. We're looking at S. Kirby there from the TBR team, all from that C category that did fall off pace and are trying to just hold off what they can in that B category. So unable to hang on, and the resources that you bring do get shut off the back pretty quickly in these chop races, because it is all about making it to that finish line as quickly as you possibly can. Again, it's all about handicap racing, the subgroups A, B, C, and D all setting off at different times. The winner is the first rider across the line, regardless of the subgroup. So the series is run, in a way that all of these riders that are out there from each of the categories, a lot of times you do see at the elite level, it's all about the top end racers, the ones who are the fastest there out on Zwift, amongst them all. The difference here is those riders, a lot of them are out here racing. A lot of them did jump into that A category. They're out to make this almost a profession at this point. Obviously, we have the UCI bringing a esports, world championship next year that has been announced in partnership with Zwift. That reality now has people going, okay, this is something that I'm going to aim for to try and grab a world championship title, a national title. You have people who are out to be all-out competitors here, make this a professional racing scene for them. And you're going to see those riders in the A categories here, hammering away today in both the mixed races, and I believe also amongst the women's race, we'll see some of them as well. But there's also the reality in chop racing that the D category, the riders who are usually the unsung heroes, who are the bulk of the Zwift riders, the bulk of the Zwift racers, the bulk of those who are using Zwift, they have the chance to win the race up against those riders out there today. They have the opportunity to show what they've got, to work together and dominate the race if they can. And what was cool about the chop series that we had for the Southern Hemisphere was the reality that we did see a lot of times the D category and the C category take the wins out there on specific courses. And it was interesting to see what courses actually suited different categories out there. We are seeing 4 laps to go out there for the total of 26-kilometer race here. So a few more Ks to hammer away here, and we're going to see what this C category can pull off out here today, as it does look like they are the favorites so far, as their time gap is down to 40 seconds, it looks like, actually, for that category right now. So back in with the live time gaps here, you see the C category here, 40 seconds, 9.8 kilometers. They're only about 0.4 kilometers off the pace there of the D category, shutting down that head start. Now, we are seeing, though, that the A's, though, have already brought back almost half of the time advantage that they were getting at a 3:38 currently right now for that A category. They have done an amazing job so far of really hammering away and bringing things back here. We are seeing some of the strongest riders we've ever seen out on Zwift, actually. I'm seeing a Scary Mary up in here, and I'd be shaking my boots a little bit here if I were in these other categories here, as some Zwift Academy finalists are actually jumping in here today with Mary Wilkinson jumping out on course actually right now. Let's go ahead and jump in with this feed here of the A category. Mary Wilkinson hammering away here, riding, it looks like, as well as Madsen here, riding for Team Turbo, also one of the longest standing esports teams out on Zwift. Team Experimental with Borman's there. Maddox is out there. Rachel Elliott of the KRT team is jumping in there, one of the strongest women we've ever seen out on Zwift racing. So this is what we were talking about as those who are taking Zwift racing to the elite level, to that semi-pro, pro level, pro contracts on the line at times, obviously with Mary Wilkinson as one of the Zwift Academy finalists last year. So this is some of the strongest women we've ever seen out on course, trying to chase down these other categories right now. Currently at a 3:32, does look like they're working fairly well together. 4.6 watts per kilogram on the front there for Bormans right now, coming from Team Experimental out of the Netherlands right now. So at a 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, these are some serious numbers right now. Now Rachel Elliott heading to the front here, 5 watts per kilogram coming from her. And this is a rider who's got multinational titles actually in the time trial and in time trialing, specifically on the tandem recently with some recent injuries and some eyesight stuff happening. The reality of her injuries have actually excelled her into some other genres of cycling, specifically Zwift racing as well as tandem racing, which is really awesome to see that she's able to still have that experience and that grit and put that effort in. And that Zwift Racing, I think, has opened up a lot of these opportunities for her now, even with some of those medical issues. So really cool to see Rachel jumping out here, able to use those strengths, show off what kind of a rider that she is here, and try and chase things down here in the chop. And that's one of the beauties of Zwift. We're talking about the community racing. We're talking about everybody having a chance to win. I mean, that's right there another way that we see that Zwift is an amazing platform to get everybody on the bike and everybody be able to show off what they've got in this virtual world here. Right now, obviously represented with 5 laps out on the volcano course counterclockwise, but in all the worlds of Zwift that we do have out here and all of the different modes and events that we do see. And this lamb chop one being one that definitely highlights everybody up against each other. And that's kind of what's cool about it. I mean, obviously everybody's trying to win, but everybody's pushing each other too from every level. A lot of times in the scratch racing is tons of fun, absolutely awesome. And obviously we love to cover it. We've been covering over on Zwift Community Live, the Fusion, World of Fusion Racing's on Tuesdays. And it's a super awesome highlight of the elite racing, usually of the A category. But here, in the chop racing, in this, everybody's got that chance to win, and it's the A's against the C's, against the B's, against the D's. Now, again, this is a series in partnership with Black Sheep Cycling, Black Sheep, which is a cycling apparel brand based out of Brisbane, Australia. As you can see, these kits that each one of the categories are hanging out in are specifically designed by Black Sheep. And you can grab a kit in-game by participating in these series, actually. So make sure to jump on into the series and make sure to unlock those kits, as they're pretty cool looking. We are seeing, each one of the categories then is able to represent themselves with a different color kit, as we are seeing here again with this B category here. Does look like they are making the chase here at 44 seconds back. Now, I have a feeling that with the strength of the fields out here and the numbers of riders, it's going to be interesting to see what these categories can pull off here, as I have a feeling that the reality of the strength of an A category out here is maybe going to hold or favor the A category, perhaps, with just the raw wattage and not the numbers that keep the speeds really high in the D and the C category and the B category. It may be a little bit more difficult for them to hold off the crazy pace of the A category. But I may be wrong. We've seen it many times where we make some predictions and the time gaps seem like one thing or another thing, and then next thing you know, the D category holds off the rest of the riders out there and is able to make something happen. But it does look like that's not going to be the reality of things today, as we do jump back in with the C category with LYC from the CLS team here at the US of A. It is a 10-second gap back to the D category now. So this is the leaders out on course now at this point in the C category. 13.5 kilometers completed out of the 26. So we've got about 13 kilometers to go. I do believe it's going to be about 3 laps here for this C category to complete still. So as we jump back in with the Bs here now, and what kind of a gap that they are trying to close down. It does look like it's about 45 seconds here for this main group of the B category now, as we're looking at Goodyear here coming out of Australia. Early morning for the Australians out here. See Scott Holmes as well, Z-Sun, as well as the AHDR ladies team is out here. Always good to see them. And Dowling is leading things out, and that is the Aussie Hump Day Ride team. They have a ladies team and then an AHDR team as well. So good to see them with the little acronym there on the right-hand side of the screen, as you can see, for the AHDR team. It does look like this pack of riders is keeping it pretty consistent here. I think we do have almost all 20 of the B riders still hanging out in this main group. A little bit of gap there toward the front. There's a little bit of a push expected, obviously, on some of those little uphill grinds there. BRT Hellcats represented here. It looks like 6803 here, also coming out of Australia. Espacette there for Team Revo, making her way to the front there, trying to close things down. And the gap here is 40 seconds to the front end of the C category. Is about a half a kilometer that this B category needs to close down. As we jump back in with the virtual leaders out on course here, it is the C category that is still leading things out. We'll see if we can grab that in just a moment here, as the C category at 14.7 kilometers completed so far. They've been hammering around. If we do look over at zwiftpower.com, if you guys are unfamiliar with zwiftpower.com, it is one of the main places that you are able to go for any of the live racing out on Zwift. And the current situation for the live standings, if you wanted to hang on in the C category, the average is right around 3.1 watts per kilogram at the upper end, and sitting in is about 2.6 watts per kilogram for the lower end, and that would to be expected. That's right within the ranges. So it does look like everybody jumped in to the correct categories out there today for the C category, as well as for the B's and the A's. So that's always good to see. It is a self-governance when it comes to that, and jumping into the correct category. A lot of times, you need to find where you fit so that everybody is pushed to their absolute limit out on course here. So it does look like we do have our C category and current leaders out on course here, feed back up with us here, and at 15.5 kilometers in there, about 10K to go. And it is a 28-second gap that is growing between them and the D's. The D's are about to be caught by the B category that we were just looking at, and we do see, let's go ahead and jump back in with them real quick. This is the catch of the D's out on course from the B category in that blue black sheep kit. Dowling still leading things well here, it looks like, with Edwards as well as Smith now. So B category. Annabelle Cox here, BRT Hellcats there, hammering away at a solid 3.6 watts per kilogram actually for the duration of the race here. This is actually a really early race here for Annabelle. She participated also in the Southern Hemisphere races as well. She's up at 5:30 a.m. actually, down in north of Adelaide actually, South Australia. So says that it suits her well. She was trying to participate as best as she could in the other series, but was unable to do so. And so this is one that she's going to be able to be a part of a lot more for, it sounds like for all 6 of the races actually. So as Annabelle Cox is in this B category, sounds like she's going to be a little bit of a leader here amongst them. 3.8 watts per kilogram. I think she's on the upper end of the watts per kilogram so far amongst the racers out here actually. So she says that she hasn't done a whole lot of special prep actually for the series, just looking to up her fitness, through the series here. Cool to see. She also says Black Sheep Company in Australia, that she knows them really well. And so cool to see that she knows the partnership sponsor here for this series, and obviously is going to be looking for that in-game kit here. She's done a few rides with their crew down at the Tour Down Under. They're actually down in Australia. So cool little backstory here on Annabelle. As we look through here, there's also a few other participants that are going to be in the mixed race here that we're going to be wanting to watch out for. Speaking of AHDR just a moment ago with Tim Searle, and one of the organizers actually of these races that's done a huge help in figuring out what the time gap should be. This is actually a series that was done in conjunction with AHDR early on. And our first broadcast actually of Chop Racing it was the summer, I believe, of 2018. And so this is something that's been worked on for quite a while. It's become a very popular format for all the categories, simply because everybody can take the win out there. So Tim, currently in first place for distance on Zwift, actually. She has been absolutely demolishing that. Also sitting in third place currently. So we'll be watching out for Tim out on course here in the mixed race in just a moment. A big thanks to him as well as AHDR in helping to get this all organized and week in and week out for each of the series, both for the Southern Hemisphere and now for North Americas. Back in with the time gaps here. As you can see, the virtual leaders out on course in this C category. It is only 26 seconds back to this B category we've been watching. Does look like the B category is starting to ramp things up a little bit here, and they may be the favorites out here. It is 150 back to the front, only 28 seconds back. So 150 back to the front for the A category currently, 16.6 kilometers, and then it is 28 seconds from the front of the race for this B category we're looking at right now out on course. They're going to have to really start ramping this up, though, here at this point. I mean, this is starting to get down to the, the nitty gritty, down to the pressure points of this race here, when, they're going to have to really start putting something on the line. And up in those, some sacrifice might even may need to be made amongst this categories out here, and just put it all out there for the team. Or the category, rather than looking for the win. A lot of times a chop race can be lost in trying to hold back to win the sprint. And sometimes it's just going to be about that sacrifice to try and get the category to get that win, and doing it for those who got the sprint out on course still. So as they are hammering away here, the B category does have, it looks like, 29 seconds. The C category, interesting to see. They're holding steady here. It is S. Dwyer putting out a lot of work toward the front end of the race right now in that C category. So I think C category, knowing that the Bs are starting to hunt them down and that they're just around the corner here in just a moment. So interesting to see that the Cs are holding on to this time gap fairly well as they entered the volcano again here. The B category are about to enter the volcano as well in just a moment here. They're taking a left-hand turn here. The C category just entered the volcano. So this is the difference here between the two categories. As you do see, here's the C category right now, hammering away as they just entered the volcano. The B category here on the chase, the time gap, 18 seconds. They've only got them, almost got them within sight here. It is only going to be about 7 kilometers to the finish line. So I do believe they're going to have about a lap and a half at this point between these two categories. This may be the race, because it looks like the A's at 141 back may not be able to make something happen here to close things down still. So C's and the B's here for the favorites for the win in the women's race here out here today. Back in with what kind of watts per kilogram put out so far in each one of these categories. In that A category, to hang on with the likes of Mary Wilkinson, Rachel Elliott, Vicki Neeland, Sylvie Bormans for Team Experimental, line here up Madsen for Turbo, as well as Bryony Maddox. That's the current situation for that A category we're talking about. Some of the fastest riders out on course riding for Team Turbo, Canyon, ZCC, KISS Racing Team as well. Tina Kajan there as well, riding for RR and the BRT team with Vicki Neelan. They've having to put out somewhere between 4.0 and 5 watts per kilogram. At the upper end, we're looking at 4.6 watts per kilogram being put out so far by Sylvie Bormans for Team Experimental. Mary Wilkinson at a solid 4.1. Rachel Elliott at a solid 4.3 watts per kilogram. We're talking an average of 278 watts actually from Sylvie Bormans right now out on course here. So they have absolutely been demolishing this course right now. They're 42.26 into the race, and they are 138 back from the front of the race currently in that A category. So you can see them a little ways back here, as we do see on the riders nearby right now. As we do look through, if we go back to Borman in just a moment here, as well as Rachel Elliott, we can take a look here at the A category. They're just entering again into that volcano we were talking about a moment ago that was exited by that B category. Here's Rachel Elliott making her way to the front there. KISS Racing Team, 19.3 kilometers in. It is 20.2 kilometers in so far for the C category. So as Rachel Elliott leads things out, now Neelan from the BRT team going to the front here. It's going to start coming down to the last moments in this race that they can make any difference. As we get this helicopter view, take a look down at the organization of this A category. It is only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 or so riders here in this front group for the A's. They've dropped off anybody who does not have the effort to hang on any longer at this point. As Borman's now Elliott to the front on the downhill, going to look for as much speed as they possibly can. We're going to quick cut over to the C category. This is the virtual leaders on course. They're using those feather power-ups as they head into the 2-tier. It's all about that 2-tier for the sprint there as they head through for this section. And the A's have caught the D's officially out on course. The B category, 14 seconds back from these virtual leaders out on course right now. So there may be a catch being happen here pretty soon. They still got 1 lap to go here out on course. 1 lap to go, I believe, out on course, as they're going to have one more 2-tier to deal with in just 1 lap now. As they do finish up this one here, it is 21 kilometers in, as the A category here at 133 back right now. This is them trying to close things down. We're going to have 1 lap to make it happen here. They're about to hit their 2-tier with this left-hand turn. You do see each section that you do know when they're about to hit that 2-tier each time through on the counterclockwise course for the volcano. When you do see the line, the sign there with the fork in the road, the right-hand turn would take you on over to the Italian village, as well as the dirt section with some of the ruins, back on over to the old school Watopia. Original roads for Zwift, but now we're going to take that left-hand turn onto the 2-tier, back into the Volcano, one of the expansions that came out on Zwift here for the Watopia courses here. And this is the first kicks of that 2-tier we talk about on this course. It really can be difficult, though, to line this sprint up well. Right here, I think it is all about the leading well for the group, keeping the group going as fast as they can, working well together. As you do see Rachel Elliott sitting in on Borman's wheel. You can see her watts per kilogram on the right-hand side there, 4.5, 3.5, managing it well as Borman's looks to pull things along at 5.0 watts per kilogram in the front, keeping that speed as high as possible. Rachel and the others that are resting up, most likely going to come through here through this flatter section and keep those speeds as high as possible. Again, we're getting a preview here of what the sprint is going to look like here on this next lap here. This is the second tier in the 2-tier into the Volcano. It's a straight on and then a right-hand turn into that lap finish banner here now inside of the Volcano. And things are about to heat up as this chase is going to be on here. The gap's still out to 124. Not sure that kind of a gap can be made up in one lap. One lap to go for this A category. They are going to have to put everything on the line to close this down. I think this is a race between the B and the C category at this point because the C category still has 15 seconds over that B category out on course right now. So back in with this current situation here for the C's. The B's are trying to make that chase. They almost got them within sight here at this point, I believe. And the race is on here for the first in the series of 6 lamb chop races out here, and the B category are almost within sight of the exact same landscape we're looking at right here. 10 seconds is the difference here. As we look here, here is the back end of some of those C's that have dropped off. You can see the C category just ahead there, about to be caught here by these B's who are looking to close things down. We're seeing Angmo there from Team Vixen now, Goodyear now, MJ looking to take over at the front, 175 beats per minute here. And this is where, do they continue to risk their effort, or do they start to chop? Do they start to think about the sprint and say, no, they're going to be caught no matter what. We've got this. But the reality is this time gap has sat at this almost exact same for, I think it's been about 3 laps at this point. They've been within a minute for almost 3 laps, and the C category continues to press on. They continue to be motivated here to hold on to this time gap here. Second place currently here, LY from CLS. We've been looking at Clayton there from the TBR here. We're looking at this is the race right now for this ride between the C and the B category. They've got a half a lap to go at this point, and it's only down to 17 seconds. They have to close down less than, it looks like, a tenth of a kilometer. But the B category, they're trying to make it happen here. They've almost got them within sight. But look, right around the corner that we just saw that C category go through, there's going to be the downhill. Their speed is going to go up. They cannot rest up at this point. It's going to be all about the 2-tier kick, and I have a feeling what's going to happen here is the B category, having a higher watt per kilogram for a sprint situation, will catch them right at the line. That's my prediction here. Let me know YouTube. Let me know over on Twitch. Let me know on Facebook. Let me know on Mixer. Wherever you are watching right now, who is going to win it? Because we're coming down to a 10-second gap, less than a tenth of a kilometer between the C category and the B category right now. Anybody can win between these two packs right now. The A category looks to be out of it at this point. It was too much of a handicap, and it's going to be C's versus B's into this final stretch. 6th place currently, LY. CLS sitting in a little bit. Now the chop is starting to happen here. Some of the riders starting to look at each other. Will it close down? Will it not? It's all about that here out on course here. C category here, only holding on to 6 seconds. They've got them within sights here. We see the B category starting to throw down the power-ups here, but they're not really closing things down too well here at this point. Are they going to be able to make it happen? MJ now making her way to the front here saying, I've got to ditch you. I got to ditch you gals because I need to close this down if I want to take the win. They're going to come in with about 100 meters, it looks like. Maybe 200 meters on this category, and that might be just enough to hold off for a sprint. You know, the reality is, it's about FTP out here. And some of these, when it comes to the category differences, it's about FTP. But the reality is that there's also the sprint that might be strong enough to hold off against a B or a C or a D or an A category rider, regardless of what category you're in. The sprint efforts and those quick 15-second efforts tend to have some wild cards within the categories here. The B category is starting to give a go here. They're starting to make the chase. Let's jump. I'm going to jump with them real quickly here as they're trying to make something happen here. As you can see, we're trying to jump forward. It does look like one rider from this B category is going to be Fjorzan here out of Germany trying to make something happen. But in the C category, they're toward the front here now. Will the C category be able to hang on? It does look like they're going to make it happen here as this C category, currently it's going to be Clayton from the TBR here right now trying to make something happen. Back in with Clayton here from TBR. It looks like TBR 5.0 watts per kilogram. Will she be able to hold on? It looks like Santi Amatini, who did so much work early on. Now it's Dwyer, though, coming out of Germany. Up and out of the saddle. 181 beats per minute. It looks like the C category is going to be hanging on for the win out here, and it's the C category right to the line. The chop is happening here. Santi Amatini, though, not going to make it happen, and it's going to be Dwyer across the line for the win out here in the chop racing. Amazing job there all around between the riders. Great race there for S. Dwyer and the C category, able to make things happen here. Let's take a quick look here at how that played out here, as it does look like we're about to jump in 3:48 to the start of the D category for the next race, actually. So we'll be jumping in with them in just a moment here, as this is the mixed race. It is coming up here in just a moment, and it is a lot of racers, actually, that have jumped in. There's 33 currently in the category here for the Ds. I do believe we had over 400 riders that have signed up here for this race, actually. So pretty cool to see how many that we do have jumping in here. We're going to see if we can jump in for the results now for this first ladies only. And it was Steph Clayton here. First one across the line from we could see coming out of the UK, followed up by Natasha Williams from Revo. And then it's going to be Jen Burns. Louis Fjorzan, she made that last-ditch effort to the line there, to try and close things down. This shows you how close it was for the chop racing. C category, we saw them going into that 2-tier, right to the line, holding off the B category. In the B category, we're so close, they came within half a second going through that peloton of C category riders looking for that first place, actually. But it looks like the C category able to work together, hold things off, and make the chop happen here at the front and win it with Steph Clayton, followed up by Natasha Williams for Revo. Then it's Jen Burns coming in about a half a second back, Louis Fjorzan, and then it's going to be Iliada Bolton coming out of Australia. Mel Avery, another early morning for another rider. MJ, a lot of work there put up by MJ in the B category. We saw her on the front a whole lot, so congrats to her. Nina Downley as well from Team AHDR. We also seen, it looks like Marjolaine de Vega coming out of the Netherlands there 5 seconds back. And Steve Engbo, another rider very well known amongst the esports scene in the B category there, riding for Vixen, 5 seconds back for 10th place. So solid efforts there all around between the riders. We'll see if we can jump back in with the A category here in just a moment. We do have a couple of riders here hammering away out on the, a little bit of viewing here of just regular Zwifting. For those of you that are unfamiliar of Zwift free world riding, we do have Van Geit here from the BZR team with that little verified badge. Looks like they're out there hammering away. Solid 27 kilometers and 44 minutes into their ride or race currently, as we wait to jump in with the next series here in just a moment. It does look like for the A category for the riders out here, I'm going to see how things ended up. And it was Mary Wilkinson, it looks like, that was able to take the sprint amongst the A category. They it looks like 4:09 back, I'm seeing perhaps from the main pack out there for their finish. Now that is the time with the times in there, so interesting to see. I think they were still 1:09 back then because they had about a 3 or 4 minute head start. It was very close finish amongst the A category, as line here up Madsen for Turbo amongst the ladies there did finish within a second actually of Mary. They're all within the same second with Rachel Elliott, well-known time trialist, maybe not with the kind of sprint that Mary Wilkinson was able to, was not able to take the sprint up against Mary Wilkinson, as Rachel Elliott was in there for third. But it was Tina Kajan, followed by Sylvie Barmans, and then Vicky Nealon. Now that is the A category sprint. The official win, though, out there today was the C category with Steph Clayton, actually. So solid results there all around for them. We're going to be starting up the race here in just a moment. for the D category in the mixed race. If you're just tuning in, this is Chop Racing out on Zwift. If you are unfamiliar with what Chop Racing is all about, this is handicap racing where each one of the categories has the ability to take the win out on course. So D category is going to be getting a head start, as well as the C category ahead of the B category, and the B category ahead of the A category, with time gaps between them need to be closed down to try and take the win. So rather than like a scratch race where everybody starts and then finishes across the line, it's more about closing the gap down between the categories. Each category can have a winner, and so the Ds can win versus some of the elite racers that are going to be out there. Speaking of elite racers, though, out there today, it does sound like we are going to have some of the fastest esports racers out on Zwift. Team Callus, it sounds like, has 5 racers jumping in here, and this is a team newly formed with that Callus sponsor. It's actually a break off from the KISS Racing team, one of the community teams that has been around for a very, very long time. And Tom of Kaland, as well as Vidar Mail, and a few other of the top end. I believe the Norwegian national champion is even on this team, actually, Team Callus, and they're jumping out here for the A category. I think the A category may have some firepower in here today to try and close things down to the Ds and the Cs and the B category out there today on this counterclockwise course here. So the race should have gotten underway, I believe, here for the is getting underway or has gotten underway, is about to get underway here for this D category here in just a moment now. And as they do take off, they're going to be completing, it looks like 31.8 kilometers out here today. It is a 6:36 to the start of the A category out there, as we are waiting for them to get out on course. It does look like for the Ds, I do believe they're out on course. They have completed, from what I can see, about 1.2 kilometers. So we'll be seeing if we can get the feeds in here in just a moment for those racers. I believe the C category is about to take off as well. So as they do, we'll be jumping out on course here with them in just a moment here as we wait for those feeds. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Zwift Racing, again, I think we are going to be having a lot of the people that are out here watching that may be unfamiliar with the realities of Zwift Racing, what Zwift Racing is all about, what even Zwifting is. So if you're looking at this and you're like, what am I looking at? Why are there these avatars on bikes in front of me? Are people using controllers to power these? No, this is actually real power coming from actual riders out on these courses, actually, in this virtual world right now. If you look at the right-hand side of the courses, we do jump in with our C category right now. It is going to be S Mun here coming out of China, it looks like. So as you can see, all those country flags on the right-hand side there, 92 riders currently on that right-hand side for the C category. Currently putting out 5 watts per kilogram in order to hang on right now. This is a C category race, so the reality of Zwift Racing is that a lot of times it's very fast starts, and I have a feeling that the C category is going to be, slowing down here in just a moment as they start to get into their rhythm of that 2.5 to 3.2 watts per kilogram. Now, it does look like about a 2:49 gap right now, 2.2 kilometers in for the D category. The C category currently sitting at that 0.4 kilometers into their race and a 2:49 time gap. It does look like they had to deal with a 3-minute gap that we need to close down here. We'll see what the gaps were for each one of the racers in just a moment. It does look like we've got some pretty serious firepower out here, though, in this lamb chop race. I do believe I see James Phillips perhaps jumping in here, currently UK national champion. Mike Schwart, I believe, is out here as well. So some heavy hitters have jumped in here for the racing out here. I'm seeing Casey Shum as well in the A category currently, one of the most experienced Zwifters in the world of Zwift racing, actually. So good to see Casey jumping out here as well. I am seeing now back in with the C category for the 42nd place, 41st place. It is going to be Block here that we can see currently. 48 kilometers per hour is what they're hammering away at long. 1.3 kilometers in at a 1:53. So with those time gaps at about 3 minutes difference here, I believe we are about to see the B category getting out on course here. Now, a little bit of comparison between some of the riders that are in this B and A category. Now, I believe Tim Searle is going to be jumping out into the B category today. I'll have to double check our stats on that in just a moment. Some of our info here on that. And Tom O'Kaland is jumping into the A category. So Tim Searle riding for AHDR out there, one of the organizers as well of the the chop racing out here, lamb chop racing. And Tim Searle, he's got 140,000, is that 104? No, I'm saying 140.148 kilometers distance on, that's got to be a little bit more than that. I'll have to double check that though, but no, actually no, that's the current leading. So excuse me, I'm thinking calories burned, because I was thinking about my calories burned on Zwift, and it's somewhere over 1 million, but he's got 148 kilometers, number one out on Zwift for distance covered. But Tom O'Kaland, who jumps into almost every single broadcast that we do, almost every single broadcasted race, Tom O'Kaland racing for that newly formed team, Callus, the esports team, they're going to be in this A category. He's 97,829 kilometers. So, some of the top talent is out here. Now, Tim, as far as climbing out on Zwift, he's done 909,155 meters. Tom O'Kaland, who's out there for Callus, 15th currently. That's Tim with third place amongst all Zwifters in the world. But Tom there with 15th place with 652,593 meters. Time on Zwift, 3,830 hours for Tim Searle. And for Tom O'Kaland, currently sitting in 7th place. Tim is in 2nd place with that 3,830 hours. Tom O'Kaland, 7th place with 2,611 hours. As far as energy put out on Zwift, 705, 387 WH. And is that watts per hour? Or what are we looking at there for WH? And then it's going to be Tom O'Kaland there for 11th there. I usually look at it for calories. Is that supposed to be a measurement in calories that like we are, us silly Americans are completely unfamiliar with? But 549, 587 there for Tom O'Kaland. So pretty big on the energy that has been expended out on Zwift in order to get those kinds of numbers. So solid efforts there all around for them. 54 seconds to the start of the A category, actually. I'm seeing some chatter come on through. Third Wheel saying Callus thought they were going to have all the fun, but no, it looks like Third Wheel for the KRT team is jumping out there. Nigel Clark for the Bolt Racing team is out there as well, giving some chatter. There's some good little ribbon going on here between the riders, actually. There's a little chat box on the right-hand side of your Zwift that you can chatter with some of the other people in the event before the event. I'm seeing Tilquist out there as well as M. Wheeler. I'm seeing Nigel Clark. I'm seeing Casey Shum giving a little bit of talk here about who's going to take the win. But it's going to be about the A category working together out there, actually, because the B category's got on course at 5:25 back currently at this point. So B category got some work cut out for them, 2 kilometers in for them. It's a 2:16 gap, as you can see here, between the C category and the Ds. We'll see if it comes down to a similar type sprint at the end here, but it's a very different course, actually, than what we just saw for the ladies' race. The ladies were out on the counterclockwise course for 26 kilometers. The TikTok course is what we're out on today, and that is going to include one of the most recent additions to Zwift expansions. Actually, here as we're out on the Tempest Fugit course or flat course here to begin with, and then we do head on over back over to the Watopia underwater section, the Ocean Boulevard momentarily, and then we head back on over toward the flat section into the desert there, actually, for Tempest Fugit again. So TikTok, they are going to head toward Titans Grove momentarily, the new expansion with the dinosaurs and the mountain bike course and all of that, but they do take a left-hand turn back over toward Ocean Boulevard and toward the Watopia Mountain area. Go through the underwater tunnel and then take a right-hand turn back on over to the flat sections of the desert, actually. So I'm going to stay pretty flat out here today. Very high speeds, 2 laps. And because of those 2 laps on a flatter course, I have a feeling it may be favoring the C and the D category out there today. A lot of times for the A category, one of the things that does favor them is when we do go uphill. When the watts per kilogram really matter is on those uphill sections. And because of the reality of a flatter course out here, it may be a little bit more difficult for that A category to close things down as fast as they would like to. So we'll have to wait and see, what kind of pace that they can throw down out there today, and whether or not the A category can make something happen to try and close things down. Now, I'm going to jump back in with the B category here for just a moment. They are 5:01 back. They have started their race out here. We've been watching the C's for quite a while now. We do see there is a solid 101 racers in this B category. Huge amount of Now, this is the mixed group. With these amount of numbers, the speeds are so incredibly high, and taking over at the front end of this pack, it's really about going way over threshold because the speeds are so incredibly high in these categories. The reality of what you need to do in order to hang on toward the front in this first place is going to be well over your category limit. Now, again, just jumping in, if you're unfamiliar with lamb chop racing, with chop racing, each category is racing each other. You can see the live time gap between each of the categories on the right-hand side of the screen right now, 7.2 kilometers in. Leaders out on course. That is going to be the D category currently. They're hammering away. They've got a gap of 1:47 over the C category. They got a 3-minute head start over them. The B category at this 4:44 currently, I believe they started with about 5 minutes. And then the A category, it looks like they are about an 8-minute deficit here. And that A category, 2.1 kilometers in, are going to have their work cut out for them today, because the reality is that these riders are going to be doing everything they can to hold them off there out here today. And on a flatter course, the speeds are going to be high. It's going to be having to drive 6+ watts per kilogram on the front end of that A category with this many riders in each one of these categories here. 7:49 though, as you do see, this A category are quickly bringing that gap down. The D's they're looking like they're going to have to really be pounding the watts out here in order to keep the speeds high enough to hold off some of these other riders here. So in with the A category in just a moment here, going to take a look and see how things are being let out. It does look like, as we did say, it was going to be 6.2 watts, 6 watts per kilogram plus on the front. And I think they are not failing to do just that, as I am saying K. Robertson as well as K. Ward. Now, Kyle Ward out there, 6 watts per kilogram currently seeing from him. He is hammering away. And this is a rider that was involved in the chop racing for the Southern Hemisphere as well. Very familiar with what's needed to take a win out here. Vidar Mail here coming from Team Callis that we were talking about there, one of the new esports team that was currently formed. We're seeing Fagerly as well from Callis now. We're seeing Kalen there, Callis. Now, looking to take over the front here of this race right now. It looks like Egypt Nano here coming from Slovenia now at 6 watts per kilogram. Look at the pace that needs to be set at the front here. Now, it's about these power-ups, though, too. Williams here. David Williams, KRT. David Williams, one of the most experienced Zwifters out on course, showing us how to use a power-up here on this flatter section to keep those speeds as high as you possibly can. Team Draft now making the way to the front with Jim McQuaid. And all of these familiar names from the esports world, from the elites now in this A category, looking to shut things down on that D category. But look at the time gap still. It is still out to 7:38 currently for this A category, 4:22 for the B category, 1:30 for that C category to hang on here. As we're looking at the B category here with Van Alst right now. T. Dow for the Vikings team is there as well. Thompson here from Cryogen, as you can see, making their way through to about 3.6 watts per kilogram. Now look at the front end of these riders here, though. As we're looking at 5th place, 3rd place now making the way to the front here. It's about 4.0 watts per kilogram to the front end of this B category. And at this kind of a pace, I think the B category do need to kind of ramp things up here a little bit. There we go. Up above that 4.0 watts per kilogram. Because the reality is that the B category, look at the right-hand side. You see the current riders nearby list. You can see their watts per kilogram. And as we said earlier, each one of these categories, they are categorized. Each one of these riders is categorized by their watts per kilogram for their functional threshold power, what they can hold for about 1 hour straight. That's estimated by an FTP test that you can do in game. You can all kinds of different ways. There's all different ways you can measure your FTP test. There's quite a few different tests you can do. Once you do get that FTP, though, you get an idea of what you can hold for about 1 hour straight. At that point, then, you can enter which category you should be in Zwift. D category riders, 2.5 watts per kilogram or less. That is how many watts you can hold for 1 hour straight per kilogram of body weight, because it's all about the watts, the power to move that avatar. Just like in real life, you need a certain amount of watts to go into those pedals to move the weight on your body forward. And at 2.5 or less, you're a D category rider. They get that head start, as you can see, and they can take the win out there if they hold off that 121 from the C category you can see on the right-hand side of the screen right now. But for these B category riders, to hold off this A category, you saw the A category riders, they're pushing 6 watts per kilogram plus on the front. And if they want to catch, that's what they got to do. They got to go over their category limits at the front end of the race. Because the reality is you sit in, and the rest of the riders you can see here, 3.8, 3.2, they're working with those that are on the front, that are pushing and going beyond what they can handle for 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. You're not going to have these averages at the front of the category, at the front of the pack of each one of these categories. They're not going to be below that that category limit, at least for what the time that they're at the front there. So it's all about going over and then under, over, unders. You may be familiar with that if you ever had any coaching or if you coached cycling. There's a certain type of interval that's called over, unders, and that's kind of what it's like when you're out there racing in a team time trial or a chop type race. You're doing over, under efforts continually, looking to push that pace as high as you possibly can when you are on the front, sacrificing yourself as much as you possibly can. 46 kilometers, as you can see here, 8.5 kilometers. They're 10 minutes into this effort here right now as we're watching GK here, and it looks like making the way to the front is going to be the BRT rider here. Green T. Ellis there from Team Dirt. Great little story here on where this team came from. Dad's Inside Riding Trainers, one of the coolest team names we've ever seen in Zwift. And, with Zwift riding and racing, cool little community story, because Chop Racing is all about the community and is really all about highlighting all those that are out there, and that the bulk of Zwifters are those who are just looking to make their indoor cycling fun, right? That's why we ride Zwift. We're not looking at the garage door, the basement wall any longer. We're looking at something that is interactive, that we can interact with other riders, interact with the pavement, interact with our training in a dynamic, pixelated, awesome graphical reality in front of us. And Team Dirt, I think, really came out of the fact that we're next to a lot of our family while we're riding now, right? A lot of times you go outdoors and nothing's going to beat outdoor, is real, and nothing's going to replicate that experience. But we now have a new experience where we're in the world of Zwift here, and next to us at the same time, we maybe have a baby next to us, or our spouse or significant other, or they're right there next to us. And I think that's where this Dad's Inside Rider Trainers reality came from, because Zwift has given the opportunity to so many that have a lot of other responsibilities in life to keep their fitness, to keep pushing on, to race in a virtual world against each other, to go out there for the wins from their living rooms. Well, the children, the family, they're there cheering on Dad, cheering on Mom. And there's actually a second part of this. There's another part of this team, an other half. We'll call it the better half, as we're supposed to do, of this team, called the Mert team. Mom's Inside Riding Trainers as well. So Dirt team and Mert team, they're hammering away, and T. Ellis doing a great job of representing them there, coming out of Canada, 150 beats per minute right now. So solid efforts here so far in this race. Now we're going to jump back in with the B category. It looks like Ellis here. Well, we're still with Ellis here as he's hammering away. Solid efforts here coming from him so far. Let's go ahead and jump back in with the C category. They're about to jump on over to their, I believe this is going to be their, this is going on over toward Watopia Mountain. On the right-hand side, if we were to pan to the right-hand side of the course for a moment, we'd see Watopia Mountain in the background. They're about to dive down in. They're exiting the expansion course, one of the most recent expansion courses to Watopia, those flatter sections of the desert here, and they're heading right on down into Ocean Boulevard. We're going to go through the underwater tunnel here with the C category in just a moment. Team Velo Sport here coming out of the US of A, leading things out for this C category. 93 riders. They've got a 36-second gap to close down here with a little over a lap to go. They're 12 kilometers into this 36-kilometer race now with 35 seconds. So it looks like the D category going to have a lot of work cut out for them to try and hold off this C category. Now the A's, with 8 minutes to begin with, only 9 kilometers in, they've got a solid 3 kilometers plus to close down to this C category. But they are at that 5:29, so they've closed down about 2.5 minutes so far. The B category, they're sitting at that 2:44. They're looking to close down. It looks like the B category is struggling a little bit more on these time gaps than the rest of the categories. Interesting to see the differences here, as that B category in the women's race just prior had a very different situation between what happened, with coming right down to the wire with that C category, just barely able to nip it by about a half a second, which makes things really exciting. And when Chop Racing comes right down to those last few meters, that you put so much on the line to close it down, and then it's all about those last couple of meters. And would it been a little bit different if a couple more of those category riders would have put out just a little bit more of an effort? Would the category have taken the win? And that's really what this Chop Racing is about as well, is how much can you sacrifice for that category to take the win, and how much will you sacrifice, or are you going to sit in and try and wait for that chop, wait for that sprint, and get the win outright, but maybe risk that it comes down to that half a second? A lot of tactics that go, it does look like, a lot of people think time trial, maybe time trialing doesn't have as much of tactics, but this kind of time trialing, this kind of category racing against each other adds a couple of extra little dynamics, a couple of extra little controllable factors here, where there's the reality of, like in a team time trial, you're just the fastest time across. That's all you're looking for here. But with the chop and the sprint at the end and being able to win it outright, you've got a couple more tactics, a couple more risks that you can take. Am I going to go to the front pole? No, I think we're going to make the chase. We're going to make the cut, and it'll be a sprint for our category. I can sit in and not risk quite as much. So there's choices to be made, but the reality is it could come down to that half a second, like we saw between the B and the C category in the women's race just a few minutes ago. And again, C category taking it down, B category missing out by just that much that maybe they didn't put out on course, looking to make the chop happen and win the race. All right, now as we're watching the C category going through the underwater boulevard here, I do believe they are going to see the D category in their view, and there they are just ahead. D category going to be caught in the first lap here, it looks like, and the C category doing a great job. We're seeing Jamie Blythe actually out there from NTR. I did see that name pop across the screen there just a moment. Currently sitting, I believe, in second place overall in the World of Fusion Racing Series. That's some scratch racing for the esports scene that Zwift Community Live is covering every Tuesday. Good to see Blythe out there hammering away in this race here for that NTR racing team. Well, it'd be interesting to see if his teammate Charlie Ryan is out there as well. As these riders have been hammering away in the scratch racing, now looking to get a little bit of that FTP solid steady state functional threshold power efforts out there in these riders. There is Charlie Ryan, C Ryan NTR. So it looks like the teammates have jumped out onto the course here to try and win this C-Cad. Now, they work really well actually together in those fusion races here. It looks like they're doing similar here in the races out here today here. 2:16 back now, the C category. Now making the catch. They are the virtual leaders out on course along with the D category. We'll see if any of the D category can hang on as they come on through, but it is going to be 2:16 back to the B category to try and close things down. And here they are with Ellis right now for that team Dirt and MB. It looks like GK as well as there. Downing, it looks like, is Barrett here on the front, 4.9 watts per kilogram. They're about to hit that section of course that we just saw a moment ago as the catch was made. So we can get a look here of MB at 5.1 watts per kilogram. Over category limits, but that is because he's taking the poles here at this point. We're going to take this right-hand turn into that little uphill grade. This is one of the main uphill grades that we'll be hitting. This and then what would be the entrance to the new expansion of Titans Grove is also the other significant climb out on course here. But that's about it. Those will be sections they are going to be looking to make up as much ground as they possibly can, as we do see the riders here really starting to bump up the watts per kilogram as we do move forward here. It is going to be Owens here toward the front. Otto there, 5.7 watts per kilogram. Sandvik now really starting to turn his screws at 6.6 watts per kilogram coming from him as they bring back quite a few seconds there. 2 minutes, the difference in about 1 kilometer up to that D category. D category and C category are still all together. Interesting to see that they have not really separated from themselves. And actually, on a flatter course like this, there may be a few D category riders, as we jump back in over with them, that may be able to hang on with the C category all the way to the finish line and make a sprint. All they got to do is sit in the draft. And, you know, the reality of the C category at 3.2 at the upper end and the D category at 2.5 at the upper end, that's enough. You know, that's a close enough watts per kilogram. That's a close enough difference in their abilities and power to sit in perhaps for this flatter course. Just make it over. Just put that extra dig in over the top of these little climbs that are out here. You know, really I think the struggle for the D category riders that are hanging in here amongst these C's right now, the struggle will really be as they go over the Titans Grove entrance area and take that left-hand turn out of Titans Grove through the Redwoods and down on over toward Ocean Boulevard again. That is going to be the section where they're going to have to do everything you can. If you are a D category rider that's out there watching right now, you're in those bright, call that reddish kits right now. There's those. If you are in one of those kits, you're not in one of the black kits out here, and you're hanging on, looking to try and get a win out here still. If you are one of those D category riders, that's the section. Dig, really hang on through that Titans Grove and do everything you can through those climbs. Because if you got a kick, you can maybe take the win out here still today. But it looks like a few of these D category riders falling back here at this point. No, back in with it here as you do see the time gaps change. The 2 seconds was the difference for a second there, though. Back in with the Bs, though, as you do see, they're heading on over toward the flats here of the desert expansion right now. And it is going to be Barrett for STW toward the front. Sandvik there as well. Thompson from Cryogen. Looks like Eric Schlange from Zwift Insider also riding for the Dirt Team. Good to see Eric Schlange out here. And if you haven't checked out some of the latest articles for Zwift Insider, this is the editor-in-chief out there participating in some of our races and rides out on Zwift, and a lot of the broadcasts, Eric Schlange. Recently did some great analytics of the current TT bikes, the current regular bikes, the current wheel setups, the current, you know, just amazing analytics on what the fastest setups are out on Zwift. Did an amazing job showing percentages as well as times on different courses, which are better climbing bikes, which are better wheels for climbing, which are better wheels for flats, which are better bikes for flats. Amazing analysis. Make sure to go check out those latest articles over on Zwift Insider, because if you are looking to jump into some of these races, you might want to think about what your setup is. You know, as you do jump into Zwift, there is a whole garage where you can unlock all kinds of bikes. You can unlock all kinds of wheels. And you earn those by sweating out on Zwift. You earn drops, sweat drops, by gaining those from riding along, doing events, doing training rides, doing workouts. You gain drops through that, and then you spend those drops in the Zwift store to add those things to your garage. And as you add those to your garage, a great place to figure out what you should be adding to your garage for what kind of races and what kind of rides you want to focus on would be those articles that Zwift Insider recently released. And as there are new releases, new updates to the game, changes made to some of the bikes, made to some of the wheels, new wheels added, always on top of it there with this Dad Inside Ride Trainer. Eric Schlange hammering away at the back of this B category right now. BZR now toward the front. Now it looks things a little bit of separation here. Is the B category getting a little bit anxious? Look at this. Look at it as they start to catch some of these Ds that fell off. Starting to really spread things out here. Jay Bird now. We're making our way to Kelvon now. Keep on moving forward here. Pearson from BTC. They're starting to stretch things out, and when the elastic starts to stretch like this, you know the riders that are looking for a wheel here are just trying to do what they can to hang on. When you start to see this straight line in cycling, in any kind of cycling race, any kind of echelon like this, you know that the riders are just looking for the wheel in front of them. If it were to bunch up, then it means that the power and the speed that's being put out by the riders that are around that pack is enough that they can kind of sit in and find any wheel at any time, move around. But if it's only the wheel that's right in front of you, that means the speed is so high that as soon as you go out of the draft, you're not going forward any longer. You're just sitting in looking for that speed. That's what's happening right now. That's why it gets strung out at those points. And as you can see, the speed definitely got up, and there's been a break amongst these riders here in this B category. They're looking to shed some of the dead weight here, and Pearson's saying, no, I got to get back right now, because if I do not, these riders toward the front that are pushing the pace are going to drop us off here. So we may see some of the flies here biting the dust off the back here in just a moment. And another one, this is interesting to see as these riders are looking to hang on. Who's going to be able to make that happen? Who's the dead weight? And who's actually going to make the chop racing here in the B category? With only a 123, I think there's a lot of motivation as well. With a 253 gap back, it's only about a minute and a half back to the A category at this point. 70 riders in the A category really making a push here now to try and close things down. And knowing that they're within a minute and a half with with a lap to go. There's about a lap to go at this point. They're about to head through, actually, the sprint section out on course in just a moment here for that A category as well. So B category here about to round things out for their one lap to go. And with that to go here, I think they're starting to get a little bit anxious, to try and hold on to this time gap, because it's not a whole lot to work with here. And the A category showing the strength in numbers here out on course. Looking at K Ward here now, as you can see. Kyle Ward, 11.7 miles in. We are looking at miles here on the A category, as you can see. And solid efforts here from this category so far. It does look like most of the riders have made this group. Still sitting in about 19th, 21st place. Third wheel there for the KRT team. Looks like Moxon from BRT is still there as well. Legvos from 2RR. New French team out on course. Good to see them hammering away as Samuel Legvox at 3.9, 4.8 watts per kilogram coming from him. And Legvox out of France at 169 beats per minute, 289 watts. Looking to sit in a little bit perhaps and find little reprieve now at 5.0 watts per kilogram. Kate Farb's there as well from the Vikings team now as they head through. One lap to go. That will be the finish line right there that we just saw them go through. It is not a banner on this course. It is actually a rock cropping through the sprint section on the flat course there, actually. So that will be the section we'll be watching for the sprint. And they've got one lap to go to close that down. My prediction is it is going to happen. And the reason being is that they closed down 7 minutes on that first lap, and all they have to close down at this point is 2:32. So the work is going to be cut out for this C category as they lead things out. They do have plenty of riders still in the C and D category, we're going to call it still, as the gap really hasn't gone out. We still see some of those red jerseys amongst them here. Jamie Blythe here, NTR, looking to make their way to the front, but they're going to have to really up the pace here at this point. It's still about 2 kilometer difference here. They've got to hold on to that all the way to the finish line here for this chop racing right now. 19.7 kilometers in for the A's, 2:30 back, a 1:09 back for the B's. The C's and the D's are all together out at this point on this flatter sections of the course. 21.5 completed it out of 36 kilometers on the day. And it looks like a lot of the D category that were caught out on course are just being shut out the back of this B category. We're back with the B's here. They're 108 back. They're still making the chase. This is currently 23rd place for Tarbite here from Cryogen now. Burke there as well. We're seeing Moncton now. Guthrie. Bowen. Good to see Neil Bowen out there. Winner in this B category for the Fusion race actually on Tuesday. So it's so great to see some of these scratch racing, esports racing riders jumping in to this chop racing and putting their hand down for that, getting some good training in for it, and making their way to the front to try and hammer and win against those riders that they're watching in the other races during those scratch esports races on Tuesdays actually. So seeing a lot of those riders jumping in on Thursday for the Lamb Chop. Now, if you're unfamiliar with chop racing, you're just tuning in and you're wondering what is going on here in front of me. Why am I seeing these category gaps? Why am I seeing, why am I not just seeing a front of the race? Where's the front of the race? Why isn't there just and there is a front of the race here, but it isn't your normal situation here. This is a race that is all about all the categories getting an opportunity to win. You're looking at the current leaders out on course. This is the front of the race with the C category, but they got a handicap. It's handicap racing out on Zwift. That is Lamb Chop Racing. And it's all about each one of the groups being able to win. The winner is the first rider across the line, regardless of the subgroup, regardless of the category. You get a time gap because of the ability of the D category, the C category. They each get a gap that's given to them to try and take the win. And any of the categories can win. If you're, this is kind of a cool series if you're a little bit timid about getting into racing as well. The main reason that is because everybody in your category is actually working together. Right? It's all about keeping it together from the get-go. One of the things a lot of times I think that people are intimidated is the speed and the quick starts of Zwift racing to be involved with, and also just being in no man's land, being in no women's land right from the get-go. Right? Like, I tried to race, I didn't get into the pack, it didn't really feel like there was a whole lot of tactics, and I just kind of suffered the whole time. Well, in handicap racing like this, you're amongst people of similar ability in the B category, the C category, the D category, or the A category. And because of that, it might start kind of fast, but they're trying to keep it together. They're trying to work together to keep the speed as high as possible, and then it comes down to a sprint at the end. So because of that, it's an easy way to get involved in Zwift racing. It's an easy way to check out what the Zwift racing scene is about, what the events are about, and be able to get an amazing workout because everybody around you is pushing the pace that you could possibly hold for 1 hour straight because you're in a category of other riders that are at the same ability, at the same level, and they're going to be pushing you at the same level, at the maximum of that same level that you're used to being pushed at, for that racing. And you still have the opportunity to win. It's a win-win-win all around as far as getting a great workout, everybody's supporting each other, and at the same time, getting that cool feeling of a sprint to the line if your category is the one that makes it right to the finish. 58 seconds, though, to try and make it to the finish here for the B category. A category, 158. They're 22.7 in. It's a 36-kilometer race here. 24.1 completed for the C's and the D's. They're still together. There's these D category riders. They've really been hanging in here so far, and what an amazing job by them to try and hold on and make something happen still, even though they were caught. You don't see that often in these category races, handicap races actually, where once the D category is caught, they usually are unable to keep with the race all the way through. But because of the flat nature of this course, now the question is going to be, as we said earlier, once we take that turn into Titans Grove and then head on over to Ocean Boulevard, that's really going to be the section that these D riders that have been hanging on to this point are going to be put to the test. And speaking of the test here for that, I'm going to take a quick look at the live results right now for the C and the D category. And I am seeing for the C riders and the D riders on the live feed over at ZwiftPower.com. Again, if you haven't checked out ZwiftPower.com, that's where you want to go for all things Zwift results for these races. And I am seeing in the D category, it is going to be Alexander Altritzer. And then it's, I believe that's one of the main ones for the D category. I'm also seeing it looks like Marcelo Gottardo, perhaps, for the D category as well. Hanging tough in there. So a couple of D category riders still in there, but it's mainly C that has made the front group here at this point. So looking through for the average watts per kilogram in the C category, if you're able to hang on, they've done a great job actually of managing themselves, making sure that they all got into the correct category. We are seeing it is about a 3.2, 3.3 watts per kilogram at the upper end to hang on in amongst them, about a 2.9, 2.8 watts per kilogram. If you're unfamiliar with watts per kilogram, what are you talking about, Nathan? What is watts per kilogram? Right-hand side of the screen, you can see right now the watts per kilogram that Ganson is putting out for that dirt team. That it looks like 4.2 currently, 3.8, fluctuating between there. We're going to go to another feed here real quick to give you an idea where that number is coming from. So in the upper right-hand corner, you can see the current watts that the rider we're currently looking at are putting out. You can also see their heart rate and their RPMs. Now that wattage, if you take the weight of kilograms of the rider for the avatar we're looking at right now, and you divide that wattage that you're looking at the upper right-hand corner by their weight in kilograms, you will get a watt per kilogram ratio. And that is what you see on the right-hand side by their name, 3.9, 3.8. It's continually changing along with the watts in the upper left-hand corner. That is where we get this watts per kilogram category from. That's where we get this idea of what kind of watts per kilogram can you hold, right? Because in the upper left-hand corner, you can see 277 watts, 265 watts. Somebody might ask, why don't you just use raw watts? Why don't you can hold 300 watts, 250 watts, 200 watts. Why do you make it so complicated with these watts per kilogram? Because everybody weighs something different, and it's going to take a different amount of power to move different amounts of weight. And so because of that, we need a watts per kilogram to give the category, because that's really where speed on a bike comes from. What kind of watts per kilogram you can hold in a sprint, in a 1 hour time trial, in a scratch race, whatever it might be. There's different abilities then for watts per kilogram that excel in different kinds of racing. And in this racing, it's going to be about that FTP really, because really it's a team time trial amongst these categories. So Chop Racing now coming down to the last half a lap though, as it's 31 seconds between the B category and the C category, battling it out here. It's a 1 minute gap back to the A's between the B's, and a 1:26-minute gap up to the C category. You can see all those live gaps on the right-hand side, or excuse me, the left-hand side of the course here. This is the section, though, that we were talking about. Each lap, it's going to be all about Titans Grove and whether or not you can hang on going into Titans Grove. Now, they will not be completing Titans Grove, though. Titans Grove is the recent expansion through the Redwoods there with the dinosaurs out on course. Great expansion, one of the coolest expansions, very hilly expansion through the Redwoods there. And you can go out and explore it there with some of the new courses that have been added. It's also where the new mountain bike course was recently released. As we do see them heading toward it, they will actually be taking a left-hand turn toward Ocean Boulevard. Just a second, as you do see the fork in the road there with the left-hand or straight signal. Bowen making his way to the front there. Again, solid sprint on Bowen. If they are able to hold off this A category and catch those C's, I'd be watching out for Bowen, as he showed us he had a solid sprint, but it was an uphill sprint. But he won it outright, very convincingly out on that Astoria 8 line on the New York World, actually, back on Tuesday. So watch out for Bowen here for this sprint in the B category. He's got a kick. He showed us that he can make it happen. It was an uphill grind, though, a little bit. It was a quick sprint, 5%, 6% gradient, very short, though, and it showed that he's got the kick. He was well over 1,000 watts, I think, for that kick. So watch out for Bowen to the line. Auto here now coming out of France, 6.6 watts per kilogram to try and hang on as they head downhill. Very dangerous sections, of course, out on Zwift. If you're unfamiliar with how it works, a lot of times, just like in real life racing, the speeds that can happen downhill can catch you off guard. But the reality of having to put out big watts per kilogram to close them down. As you do see, this pack just behind here wasn't paying attention perhaps. And in this B category, there's a split now. As you can see, Thompson, Radiator here as well. Now, riding for, it looks like the same team as Mike Schwartz here, actually. This is one of the funner teams out on course. Let's see if we can find Schwartz out on course here and get that team name here. It's a pretty fun team here. Team Dropouts here. And that's what that W, the negative W, it's a little bit of a play on the reality of Zwift racing, because if you see a dropout on Zwift, it means you're going to have no register of watts, and it'll be 00 and just the W up there in the upper left-hand corner. As you can see on the right-hand side of the screen in brackets, you have 2 dashes and a W. So Team Dropouts, it's a nice little way of saying that's what their team name is actually there. Good to see Radiator hammering away with that great team out on course. Looks like they've dropped out, though, from the pack at this point, and they're not going to be hanging on and making it into Ocean Boulevard with the rest of the B category, as the Radiator is going to have to not cool things down so much and maybe heat things up here a little bit more and try and close things down with the 9-second gap still opening it up. The BZR team here, as you can see, with 24 seconds up to the C category. This might come right to the line, actually. C and D category here looks like been super motivated again, but look at this. A category, look, this section of the course that we are on right here with the A category now, they're currently looking at 8th place. Tom O'Kalan there, we were speaking about him, one of the most experienced Zwifters out on course. I believe he is top 5 overall for total distance total distances out on course. We're pushing like, I think it's 100, almost 100,000 kilometers. Tom Caitlin here. And watch out for Team Callus to really start ramping things up. They've been looking for results. D category have fallen off now. As you can see, they're 4 seconds back. So it's just the C category now up against the D category, just the D category, C category up against the B category with that 18-second gap here now at this point. Huge efforts here being put out. We're going to see how things play out with a 1 second gap here at this point between them. Not 1 second gap, a 1 minute gap here between the categories still. So A category may be able to pull this off. I have a feeling they're going to make a huge close down in this last few kilometers. It's 6 kilometers to the finish line for the D category here at this point. If we can go ahead and find them out on course here in just a moment, as these Bs have them within sight now. I'm going to see if I can jump back in with the Bs here in just a second, get you guys an idea of what's happening. It is a Hugo here. He is actually up and out of the saddle right now. Hugo, 6.6 watts per kilogram, 31 kilometers in here at this point, and he is saying, I'm throwing caution to the wind. I don't need the rest of my category at this point. Bowen here trying to close it down, or maybe he's just trying to get them motivated and say, that's enough, boys and girls. The A's, they're right behind us here at this point, less than 45 seconds back now. Look at the A category, almost into the same section of the course here. 16 seconds to the B, from the Bs to the Ds here at this point. But between the A's and the Bs, it's 57 and 16. So we're looking at about 40 seconds or so. Back in with the B category here. They're pushing along, almost in sights of the A's here, though. Starting to string things out. Who's going to be able to hang on is the question now. They're making the catch. There's the C's now at this point. I think it's said and done for the C category. 6 seconds. 1 second between the C's, between the B's, and the C's and the D's. The B's just about to be caught. There it is. There's the catch. B category officially caught the C's out on course. We're not going to see the same kind of sprint as we saw in the women's race here. The mixed race, totally different. Bowen to the front now. We saw him in the sprint there in the fusion race. 6.6 watts per kilogram coming from him now. 162 beats per minute, 384 watts. Auto now to the front. The feather power is being blown. That reduces the weights of the Avatar. Perfect timing to be using that. The gaps are starting to form here at this point. The chop is happening. The reality of chop racing, that it's still about the first across the line, is starting to open up out here out on Zwift. But here, leaving Ocean Boulevard, it's going to be a right-hand turn back onto the flats of the desert here, and the A category is just heading in to that same section. They're starting to ramp things up here. 39 seconds back now. And it's the A's versus everybody else. 40 seconds has to be closed down. Nigel Clark, BRT at the front. 8 watts per kilogram now. He's got to make it happen. They've got to really get into a team time trial focus. There is also the reality that they may start trying to have some infighting and sprinting against each other early on to try and break each other. But the way they have to do that is just continually try and break the other riders nonstop. They cannot have looking at each other. They cannot start thinking about who is going to win the sprint. They still have to think about who is going to make the gap get closed down. That's what they have to do at this point. And the B category here now has the lead. The C's maybe still hanging on. Let's take a look here real quick. A few of the C's just off the back. The C category riders are just trying everything they can to hang on still just behind this B category here. Making our way to the front though. Byers here, Team TFC, Smith now, Montkov now here as well. Hugo still leading things out. This is the one who threw caution to the wind. Now we've got ZHU Specialized here now making the way to the front. Nichols now, Monkov, TVL, Byers now. They're all really starting to make their way to the front to try and find their positioning to make sure they're not dropped off from any kicks that may go. This is where things get risky. This is where you start thinking about maybe making that 1K to go kick, or that, 2.5K to go kick. Try and sneak away off the front. And there it is. Hugo going for it again. 6.7 watts per kilogram. 160 beats per minute now. Specialized GK hanging in. Getting the draft now. We do not see the A category within sight just yet on this right-hand side, though. It is still a 33-second gap. They've got to ramp this up. They cannot just be looking at each other. They've got to make something happen now. This cannot be infighting. The A category have to go at the front. 6 watts per kilogram? No. 7 watts per kilogram we're seeing. Mox in here. Fogley, Napper. Still, 6.2, and Napper ain't napping, that's for sure. He's putting out 6 watts per kilogram. HDR trying to make something happen. Schlange here letting everybody know the A's just passed him. Eric Schlange trying to get these boys to go because he can see that these riders are coming. We're hearing go, go, go from Casey Shum. Casey Shum, one of the most experienced riders out on Zwift, trying to get his A category to make something happen. Some frustration now coming out. All in, everything you got from Casey Shum, leading things out here for that A category, being the director sportif for his A category. We can do it, he says. Go, go, go. So cool to see the categories up against each other and the way that they encourage each other on out on Zwift here. Hugo now still hammering away. Go get him. I absolutely love it here now. 9th place currently here, sitting in. Tom O'Kalen, Callis here, trying to make something happen. Legbox now. It's up into 7 watts per kilogram. Cake is alive on the front from the KRT team. That's James Hodges now. 5.8 watts per kilogram. They've got 30 seconds to close down. I'm not sure it's going to happen here. Never give up. We can do it. Casey Shum is really wanting this one for this A category. I'm not sure it's going to happen here. It's a 10-second gap up to Hugo. Hugo's all in at this point, but I have a feeling Hugo with 6-7 maybe a little bit outside of his category limits here. So perhaps the results might get changed up at the finish line. We'll have to wait and see after we get through to those results here. But in with this A category here, they've got 29 seconds to make up here. I'm not sure. We'll have to see. They're about to round out here for this B category in just a second. There's a couple of more turns. When you see the little green marker on the right-hand side, there's this little pylon-like thing, right-hand side of the course. That is when you know it's in the last 30-second sprint. It's about a 30-second sprint all out to the line. And that's when you know they're heading into that little underpass arch here in just a moment. And we're into those last about half a K to go here. B category, trying to hang on. It's a 29-second gap, and it looks to me like the A category may have thrown the towel in. It's getting closed down here for the B category. They're starting to look at each other a little bit, ramp it up. Buyers now, TFC. Well, I said watch out for Bowen. Bowen is going to be one to really be thinking about here. It looks like Takix here was off the front there, ZHU Specialized, but now it's going to be Buyers, TFC, going from way out. There's the pylon now. They're going through. It's the last 30 seconds. I don't think the A category is closing down 24 seconds. They're out of sight at this point. They're not making it happen. It's the B category's race to lose. So it's Westlake now versus Bowen. Bowen sitting in perfectly here. Look at Bowen. Bowen sat right in the perfect spot, but here comes the arrow power up, and it looks like it's going to be Takis here with the arrow power up. No, excuse me, Chan. It looks like it's Chan, I believe, for Taka HDR now. Westlake trying to go. He's using that drafting power up now. Who's got the other power up? It looks like Aponic now. Aponic is kicking through. It's Westlake trying to hang on, but no, right at the line, Aponic hammers away and walks away with this one. It looks like solid effort there coming from Chan and Aponic to the line. We'll have to wait and see for the official results here in just a moment as they do populate. Back in with the A category across the line. Just missed it there for a second. We'll see if we can grab a replay of how the A category played out there. It was a solid effort there between them. We'll take a look at ZwiftPower.com there as they just came across the line. But it was the B category that was able to hang on just barely. It was by about I believe 20 seconds or so between them and the rest of the riders. Lamb Chop Racing out on Zwift here. Amazing rides out there. And it looks like B category all the way across. Interesting to see. Juanjo Ferres there from the C category. Hanging in steady there, actually. Only 2/100ths of a second back, actually. So C category, able to hang in for quite a ways, actually. But Dan Aponic there hammers away, takes it in the B category, followed up by Juanjo Ferres out of Spain. Mark Westlake riding for McCheese 4. And then it's going to be Stephen Chan. Stephen Chan almost had that. He led things out well in the final sprint, but was unable to hang on. Solid effort there, though, coming from Chan to the line. Then it was Ned Bowen. We were talking about him riding for Fletcher. He was well positioned, but didn't seem to have the right power up to take the win. Christy, it looks like Tabret. They're coming across the line next. So then we are followed up by Ryan Smith, and then it's going to be Sven Ove Sandvik, and then Gary Cordery for the pack, and then Alberto Casanova to the line. Let's go ahead and see how things ended up playing out here in this category. Now for the sprint, I believe we got here, and there it is. to the line. Chan leading things out. A solid kick with 10 watts per kilogram. That early arrow power up, but it looks like Aponic coming from way back has the kick to the line, timed it just perfectly, and was able to nip it there just ahead of Wanjo Ferres and Westlake for the win. Again, there's the results from that sprint that we just saw come across the line there. Solid efforts there all around. And that's Chop Racing, everybody. A great job out there. Thanks a lot to Black Sheep partnering to get these kits in game. Amazing kits in game. If you like those kits, if you liked what Chop Racing was all about, if you want your chance to get a win out on Zwift, no matter what category you're a part of, jump into next week's racing. We'll be back. Or there's also a race tonight for the North Americas. This is the European race. We'll be here. We're starting at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. That is USA time, or 7 p.m. GMT for the women's only racing. And then it's 7:45 p.m. GMT or 1:45 p.m. Central Standard Time, USA, for the European races. The North American races, they are going to be, if we can grab this real quick for you, 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Excuse me, on the EDT, CDT. 7 p.m. EDT for the women's only, and 7:45 p.m. EDT for the everyone or mixed race, and that is going to start tonight as well. These races are going to be going on from November 14th today all the way through December 19th. So 6 races in the series, every category having a chance to win. It's really interesting as well. Each race in the series being on a different course gives different abilities of the categories an opportunity to win. So make sure to jump on out there next week. Next up for esports racing and everything over on Zwift Community Live. Make sure to head on over there as well. Next Tuesday, we'll be out there for World of Fusion Racing. If you're looking for some more broadcasting, lots more broadcasting on its way as well. Lots of plans for all that. So make sure to hit those follow buttons wherever you may be watching and turn on your notifications. Great job, everybody out there, as always, in the Chop Racing. Thanks a lot to all the viewers out there as well and all your comments. Love all the comments. Love to see everybody out there participating in the broadcast as well as the racing. As always, everybody, thanks for tuning in. Right on.